Hi everyone, and welcome back. And in today's video, we are talking about the Hermetic principle of rhythm.
Yes. Now we did talk a little bit about rhythm in the last video when we did polarities, because the polarities determine the extremes essentially between the pendulums.
Right.
And where the swing's going.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked a little bit about the swing itself. But rhythm is pretty much the swing that it's going on. And it's also the patterns, pendulums, and the spaces between them.
Okay.
So it has more to deal with being able to switch from one pendulum to another than dealing with the opposite extremes of each of the pendulums, which we talked about in polarity. But again, there's a crossover there, so there's an intermix, which is fine. Okay? But as far as rhythm is concerned, rhythm is about patterns, and it's about spaces in between.
Okay.
Everything has a rhythm. Most people are like, what are you talking about? It's not just music. Everything has a rhythm. There's rhythm in architecture. Okay. So if you're looking at like one of the ancient Roman architects or architectural structures, you have your columns and the spaces between them. Each of the columns is considered the rhythm of the architecture.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes. It's about timing. It's also about cycles. So when we talked in the last session about polarity, we talked about the Trinity. And now we have to talk about the triad. Because the triad is the cycle.
Right.
It's the initiating, the building, and the completion of cycles. So when we're with polarity, we talked about the Trinity, soul, intelligence, and beauty, factoring that in. Now we have to talk about initiating something, actually creating it, and then completing the cycle for it to transform into whatever it's going to move into. Okay. And when we talk about that, we're talking about matter, because as we know, cardinal, fixed, and mutable, and that's what that is. Cardinal is initiating. Fixed is the creating side, and then mutable is the completion aspect of it. We've got cardinal as protons, fixed as electrons, mutable as neutrons. So now we're talking about matter. So we can say that all matter is rhythmic.
Right, in three-dimensional reality.
Yes, in three-dimensional reality. So motion takes on a completely different form, essentially.
Right.
It goes completely cyclical. So everything now in three-dimensional reality are the matter cycles.
Right.
Okay, and forming things and creation, and Earth becomes unbelievably important at this point, because that's what Earth does. It's the consolidation of different energy patterns into their own individual aspects. They're not separate from anything, they're just divided. But at the same time, and we talked about this a little in some of the other stuff too, they are conscious of themselves at some level. Otherwise, I wouldn't know that I'm me and you're you.
Right.
Okay. And that's the
Well,
way humans look at it. However, the chair wouldn't know that it's not the floor. And the energy would go right into each other, and they don't do that.
Right.
So at some level, they are conscious of the fact that they are not the same. Not the same level of consciousness that you and I have, or you have, dealing with other people and interacting with them, but it's still consciousness of some sort. Okay? And the unconscious aspects are when we meld them together, or when they are melded together. Okay? The unity aspect.
Okay.
The unconscious connection that all living things have. Okay? And there's a rhythm there too. There's a rhythm between communities, have a rhythm, where the individual doesn't matter and it's all about the community. And it's the rhythm of that community that makes things move and gets things going and allows, again, cycles to happen. We have it all the time. If I don't put my trash out, the truck still comes and picks up everybody else's trash.
Right.
Not just mine. So again, that cycle has nothing to do with me individually. I'm a part of it, but the cycle itself is a community cycle.
Well, you can see that happening all throughout history.
Yes. Yeah.
We know what happened, during the Industrial Revolution in the cities and
Right.
things like that. It happens to entire societies.
Yes, it does. It happens all the time.
Throughout history, yeah.
Right. And it's generally connected to the generational planets when you look at those, because they're cycles that affect an entire generation.
Fascinating. Okay.
As opposed to just individual.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto when you factor that in, and how those cycles actually work. And they follow the rhythm. And essentially for us, they are the planets that control or rule those rhythms.
Fascinating. Okay.
The 7 inner planets rule our rhythms personally,
right.
our personal rhythms.
Mm.
And then the 3 outer ones connect all of that into communities, which is crazy, but that's how it works. Okay. Wars are the same. Wars have a rhythm and a cycle. They have a beginning.
They do, yeah.
They have a middle, and they have a completion.
Mm-hmm.
No wars go on forever.
Right.
They all stop at some point.
Well, and talking about rhythm, I mean, you have the rhythm, the ebb and flow in battles.
Yes.
So one side gains, and the other side gains, and
yes. There's always an ebb and flow there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the patterns emerge.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're smart enough to figure them out, that's where your great generals come into play. Because
Right,
they figure those patterns out and they can understand how to work them.
Right.
And that's what chess is for. Chess is essentially a game to understand rhythm, which is very strange, but it is.
Fascinating. I never thought about it that way.
Yes.
But yeah, a lot of the master moves, you can definitely see that.
Yeah, they're all strategies.
Yeah.
They're all different strategies. If you learn chess from somebody who really knows how to play chess, that's what they teach you.
Mm-hmm.
They teach you different strategies for playing them, different patterns on the board. So if somebody's doing this is this pattern, and this is the best pattern to play against that particular pattern. It's crazy, but that's how it works.
Right.
So again, chess is all about patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about rhythm. So is music.
Right.
And all music flows through rhythms. And it's strong beats, weaker. So strong patterns of music to weaker patterns of music. And they flow. And if they don't flow, they don't work.
Right.
There has to be some sort of a rhythmic flow to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And because there has to be a rhythmic flow, now we can bring in frequencies and waves.
I was just going to ask how our senses play into this thing.
Yeah, frequencies and waves.
Especially
so
hearing,
we're talking about the mediums because we talked about this is 3-dimensional reality. So now we're talking about the shared elements.
Right.
Okay. So now we're talking about we've got air and water interplaying. Okay. So again, dark thin in motion, dark thick in motion.
Mm.
And that's where some of the weirdness can happen because you have to figure out the difference between thick and thin, essentially. Okay.
Right.
What the hell is that? So, okay, listening to music. So, okay, what you're absorbing, what you're pulling in, what the music emotionally is doing to you, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the water aspect. Okay, processing it, not just absorbing it in, but processing it. So then we're talking about, okay, the music itself, the harmonies, okay, processing them. Okay, I'm feeling all this. This is awesome. What am I feeling? And you start to process it. That's the air coming through. So that's you're tapping into the frequency, and the wave hits you, and you're tapping into the frequency. So you're dividing that yourself, and that's how you divide it. It's like when we talk about empathy versus sympathy. It's the same thing, okay, just in a different way. But that's the rhythm. Those are the patterns that we're talking about: the absorption and the processing. Absorbing, processing. Absorbing, processing. Anybody that gets into mediumship, psychic work, it's the same thing. You have to understand the rhythm and the patterns. Because if you don't, you're just going to absorb, and then you don't know what you're absorbing for the most part. You just know how it makes you feel.
Okay.
So if you're absorbing energy from somebody who's depressed, you feel depressed. If you absorb energy of somebody who's ill, you feel ill. At the same time, if you absorb somebody who's feeling happy, you feel happy. But happy could be on this side of you, and depressed could be on this side of you. And then, bam!
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and then what do I feel? I don't know what I feel because I can't divide it.
Right.
Okay. Most people will say separate, but it's not a separation, it's a division. That's the problem. There is no separation, so you can't separate it. You can only divide, and that's how you need to divide. You need a process, and that's where air comes in. Because air allows you to go, okay, that's his frequency, that's her frequency, this is my frequency.
Okay. So it's kind of the same
but
thing.
The waves are just boom, and trying to divide waves is almost impossible. I mean, go to the beach.
Oh, yeah.
Divide a wave. Okay.
Right, yeah.
Divide a wave. If it's a tidal wave, okay, but you still can't divide it. Where does that one end and the next one begin? You don't know.
Right.
Is it down here? Is it when it's coming up? Is it at the top of the next one? Where is it? Because water doesn't work that way. Water is extremely difficult to divide in that kind of a way, but frequencies are not.
Well, that's
frequencies can be picked apart.
Seen all throughout the material universe.
Yes.
You can go back down to the subatomic particles, the electron, proton, and neutron,
right,
and they all behave the exact same way.
Yes.
There again is that division, but the separation gets a little fuzzy.
It does get fuzzy. It's because, again, there is no separation. It's just a division. And the division is initiating, building essentially, and completing. And it's looking at it like a cycle.
Right.
Because if you look at it like a cycle, the division starts to form, again, its own patterns. You see the rhythm of matter, and you're like, okay, I'm starting to understand this. Anybody that's into manifestation, anybody that's into healing, anybody that's into any sort of metaphysical, well, not even metaphysical.
Well, it's even just
everything.
Science. I mean, when you burn an element to get its spectrum.
Yes. Again, it's any cycle that you look at.
Yeah.
You can look at the cycles of the seasons. You can look at everything. Everything has a rhythm. The seasons have a rhythm. We go through it every single year. They all have their own rhythm.
Right,
the rhythms change depending on where you are, which is kind of crazy too. Because if you're in the southern part of America, it's not as extreme as if you're in the northern part of, let's just say, the United States. Because if you go to the northern part of America, yeah, it's the same. It's just on the opposite flow, okay, as the South. But right in the middle, they're extreme. You can pick up the divisions really quick. I mean, we know that here, because we're in Michigan, we know the difference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Between spring, summer, winter, and fall. We can feel that bam right when it hits. Especially when people like you that have allergies. Yeah, oh my goodness.
Oh, dear God, yes.
Yes. I always know when something's coming because your voice changes. It's like, okay, it's coming. So it's here.
My eyes are
in other places, it's not the same. So the rhythm is different in other places. So when you have people that are like, I don't like Michigan, I want to move here, it's because they like the rhythm of a different area. The seasonal rhythms.
And
other people that are like, no, I can't do it.
It resonates.
Yes. And a lot of times as we get older, we want to move to a different rhythm. And that's why a lot of older people will move to where it's warmer most of the time. It's easier on their body.
Right.
The frequencies don't hit as hard. Okay? The wave changes aren't that intense. They're still there though. And some people don't realize that. Even if you live, like Florida, you can tell the difference between winter and summer in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
It's not as extreme as far as the cold is up here. You're not going to get like the snow and the other things that happen here, but it gets colder and it gets drier in the fall.
Right.
Because it's the Earth seasonal cycle, and that's the energy of the cycle.
Right.
You can still feel it. It's just not as extreme. So anyway, getting back to rhythm. Again, everything has a rhythm, and it's tapping into those rhythms and understanding them and figuring out what they are, the different frequencies of them, where they are, what they're doing, That's what we want to get into. And again, understanding the difference between the triad and the trinity.
Right.
The triad being the cycle of, again, initiating, creating, completing, or building, or whatever word you want to put in there.
Right.
But it's the same cycle that you have to get used to. And that's one of the most important parts of rhythm, is understanding what those cycles are, how to take and understand the differences.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? When all of this hits.
Right.
And you have to determine, okay, what's going on here? Okay? We talked about the aura before. Aura is the same way. You have to be able to pick out the frequencies. How do you do that? Well, the first thing you have to do is understand the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the difference between colors, but what do those colors mean?
Right.
Okay? And what do those aura colors, I shouldn't say the aura colors, the aura chakras, what are they? What are they picking up?
Mm-hmm.
What parts are they picking up? What's their job? So that you can go, okay, I need to know what indigo. I need to know indigo. I can see indigo, or I'm interacting with indigo. What does that even mean? Okay. What is it trying to tell me? And it's like, okay, what's the moon? So what is it telling you? Okay, you're going to pick up emotions. Okay. Of what's coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you can divide that and go, okay, what is the emotional impact or structure or whatever you want to call it of what's coming into this field? Okay. And before that, you just knew something broke the field. So you're like, wait a minute, that's brown.
Right.
That's Uranus. That's a break in the field. Okay, so something broke through the field. It's like, well, what is the emotional impact of that? Okay, indigo. Connect with the frequency of indigo. What is this trying to tell me? And then you go down the entire list. And after you've done it enough times, it'll become habitual.
Right.
You'll do it subconsciously, and then you'll know.
Mm-hmm.
And then the stuff that you can't process quickly enough will go straight to the heart, and the heart will determine what needs to be done right now, bam. And you just do it.
Right.
And it'll just send hormones to your whatever chakra needs. Like if there's a car coming at you, get out the way. You don't have time to go, there is a car coming at me. I should probably either jump out of the way this way or that way, or I could try to fight the car. You don't have time to do that, right? Your heart's like, move.
Right.
And it tells your down chakra to move. That's Mars, and Mars is like, get the heck out of the way. Boom, and you go.
Right.
But you didn't have to think about it, and that's why. Because your heart will override things of that nature. When things are happening so fast, you don't have time to process. You just have to go.
Right.
And Venus will do that. Okay. And does Venus process? A little bit. But that's because one of the rulerships is Libra.
Right.
Libra initiates. Something's coming, get out the way. Boom. Okay. Now we'll move on. Right? Well, Taurus was like, wow, that was really fast. Right? Wow. I couldn't have done that. I don't move that quickly. You know, Libra would be the energy of that one. So, again, those patterns are good to know.
Mm.
Okay? Not to mention that what happens when you end up having to do that. As soon as you're done, what's going crazy?
Your heart.
Yeah, your heart's going insane because it just pumped so much blood with all those hormones through you to get you to move. It now needs to calm down.
Right.
And relax itself again. Okay, which is again where Taurus is going to come in and go, relax.
Mm-hmm.
Got this. Slow it down. Because of that Earth, just let's ground this and just let's not have a heart attack.
Right.
Just relax. Okay, and see what we can do. So that's what you're looking at. Okay. Now there's a flip side of that. Okay. Something happens out of the blue. Car comes off the road, boom, 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 bam. Okay. Your kid's stuck under the wheel of a car. That's happened before. Okay. It hasn't killed him. But if the car moves either way, it's going to crush
Right.
your child. Okay. those women and men that have been able to walk over and pick cars up, that's Taurus. That's strength. Libra's the one that's saying, do this and don't think about it. Libra sends it in, Taurus goes, thank you, picks the car up, get the kid, somebody grab the kid, get the kid out of there, and then throw him out. Couldn't do it again.
Right.
Okay? And half the time you're like, wow, I can't even believe I did that. How'd you do that? I have no idea. I'm Hercules or whatever, I just worked out, I hooked out on it. That's what happened. But if you'll notice, in a lot of those instances, that's not happening.
No. They're completely
calm.
They're completely calm.
When they put it down and it was like, okay, just had to do it. Okay, again, that's Taurus. Flip side.
Mm.
Okay. So that was more Taurus than Libra. Libra's like, pick the car up. Don't think about it, just pick the frickin' car up. And Taurus is like, fine, I got to pick this car up. And then he just does it and sets it back down. And Libra's like, good, we're good with that. Everything is fine now. Everything's balanced and fine. And Taurus is, and you're just, again, standing around like, how do I access that? Consciously, that was awesome, right? Because the next time you can't do that,
Right.
And it doesn't always work that way. It's not like every time that happens, you can do that. But there have been instances where that does happen, and that's what it is. Okay? But again, it's tapping into that. It's still a rhythm that we're talking about. You're still tapping into the frequency. You're tapping into the rhythm, and you're like, boom, okay, this needs to be done. Have to do it.
Right.
You tap into that energy, and you just do it. You plug into that frequency and ride the wave.
Mm-hmm.
And then the wave's done. And it's like, well, pick the car up again. Can't. Not without really hurting my back or something,
Right.
And even then, I'm not picking the car up. I'm just going to hurt my back in the process of trying. But being able to tap into those rhythms. So again, a good way, learn chess. Learn strategy. Because it's not just stress, it's strategy. Strategy is how you understand the rhythms of anything. Because that's what strategy does. Right. It allows you to, first of all, pick up the rhythm and then understand that if you follow the rhythm, this is what's going to happen. So strategy isn't psychic. It's not looking into the future. It's not all of that. It's understanding a pattern of what's going to happen and being able to go, okay, this is the potential of this pattern. This is what it's most likely going to do. And that's why not all strategies work.
Right.
Because, a lot of the times, something within a frequency within the pattern goes, and goes haywire.
Right.
And it's like, wait a minute, I didn't follow the pattern at all. Especially like when we talk about like with war and stuff. Because,
Right.
somebody does something and it's like, well, that was way out of left field. It worked. And a lot of the times it's because whoever did it figured out the pattern and went, if I follow this pattern, I'm going to lose. So I have to do something different and I have to do it now.
Mm.
And they'll pop in and go. Well, there's that guy I found recently, the fat electrician.
Yes. Yep.
And some of the things he's explaining. Dan Daly and all those guys.
Right.
Where, he's looking at, this guy's looking at things, and when he talks about the Marines, and he's like, you have to get aggressive quick enough.
Aggressive enough, fast enough, yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
When he's talking about that, that's what that does. It completely destroys that pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And the rhythm's off. And then enemy gets surprised, and it's like, oh, we weren't expecting this, and they don't know how to deal with it.
Right.
Because they're still in the rhythm. And people like that Dan Daly guy are like, okay, screw the rhythm. We're doing this.
I see your rhythm, and here's mine.
Right. I'm changing your beat. I'm changing the beat. Watch this. You guys are playing Mozart. I'm going Metallica on you right now. Boom. And it's like, what? What just happened? Right? And that's somebody who understands rhythm.
Right.
To the point where they can make practical, effectual changes in things that, looking at it on paper, shouldn't work.
Right.
Okay? But when you interrupt a rhythm like that, you can change it. It's also people like almost get into a car accident because you were at the bar, had a few too many drinks, almost hit somebody, and then the next day you get sober. You're like, I got to change my life. I can't do this anymore.
Right.
This is, I could have killed myself, somebody else last night. The rhythm that you were on with the alcoholism should have kept on going because it's an addiction, and once it's there, it can be unbelievably difficult to get out of it.
Right, right.
Some people can just switch their rhythm right up. Not everybody has to go to AA. Some people do. It's a great program to go through. I think it's a great program to go through if you don't need to be in it. If you're not an addict of any kind. The problem is that nobody in their right mind would go through that program unless they were.
Right.
And had to. Because the beginning of that program sucks. I went through it, so the beginning of that program does suck. Okay? What you get out of the program is unbelievable. However, it's not something that most people would go, I want to put myself through this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of what I'm going to get out of it. It's okay. But I'm sure that there are some people who have. And it's benefited them immensely. But then there are others that, again, they were able to just change that rhythm. I talk about switching house systems all the time for like astrology.
Right, right.
You can switch from one to the next, whether it's a traumatic event or not. That to me is that. That's a rhythm switch. It's a house rhythm switch. Bam, you're into another house. For survival instincts, or because something happened that made you either close something down or open something back up. Or you do it consciously, and you change your rhythm.
Right. Well, that's essentially what happened with my drinking situation. I never got bad enough to where I was an alcoholic. But a song I was listening to convinced me that I was headed there, and I didn't want that.
Sure.
And so I cut it out entirely.
So you changed your rhythm.
Right.
Doing that consciously, without aid, which is great. But you figured it out before you crossed over the line into full-blown alcoholism or addiction at that point. Because there is there are two different rhythms.
Right, right.
But at the same time, everybody knows rhythms. Because anytime you change your life pattern, you just switch rhythms.
Right.
I'm not doing this anymore, I need to do this. I'm not doing this anymore, I need to do that. Picking a major in college, if you go to college, that's a rhythm. Chosen a rhythm. If you're in that rhythm and all of a sudden you're like, I don't like this beat. This beat sucks. I need something else. You switch. Those are pattern changes, but they're rhythm changes.
Right, right.
And it's understanding how to do that. Now, another way, other than learning strategy and strategic games like chess, things of that nature.
Right,
music.
Right.
Music is all about rhythms.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And the weird thing is that you can go through different rhythms and still be in the same song. So it's not path work. Rhythm isn't path, it's a pattern that you're in. You can be in multiple different patterns along the way and still be on the same path. That's another difference. So when you're talking about rhythm, you're not talking about your path. Okay? You're talking about patterns you're on as you're traveling your path. And you can switch patterns.
Well, that kind
stay
of
on the same path. So
that kind of lends itself to the three-dimensional. We've talked about three-dimensionally with pendulum swings.
Yes.
You ride one up and then switching as you go.
Yes, and you switch, but you have to understand where they are.
Right.
And how to click them over. It's not like you can just, okay, I'm just going to do this. Hey, boy, that sounds real easy, doesn't it? Hermetic's super easy. Simple. No, it's not.
Right.
You have to change a pattern.
Right.
Okay. And it can be difficult to change a pattern. Because most patterns and people are set in stone and
right.
I got to change this. There are ways to do that, like the fundamental exercises. Okay, that's the beginning of how to change your personal patterns. Okay, and how to do it.
Right.
You have to stick with it but you can change them along the way as you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that's your goal. That's essentially what the goal is in life.
Right.
To find patterns, find better patterns, switch to them, and continue to move on.
Mm-hmm.
And continue to move forward with your life. Okay? That's essentially all we're doing. And it's just following a rhythm.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And life is a rhythm.
Absolutely.
You're born,
yeah.
you live, you die.
Right.
And that's a rhythm. Okay? It's a massive rhythm, but that we all have to go through.
Right, right.
Okay? But within that rhythm, you can change patterns as you go along the way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay? And anybody can change your rhythm. Anybody can change the rhythm. Anybody can change the pattern.
Right.
It's whether you choose to do it or not, and how you choose to do it. And the way one person changed a pattern may not be the way that another person needs to change pattern.
Right.
Find a way to change it.
Mm.
You know what it needs to change, how it needs to change. That's what you need to do. Okay. So, essentially, that's rhythm. That's why rhythm is so important. Okay. It keeps balance. It keeps the harmony in your life. Okay? It balances everything out. And when you're not switching patterns and you're stuck in a pattern, your rhythm stagnates.
Well, it's when you find things start to come out of balance.
Yeah, completely out of balance. And that
That's
gets you into depression.
It's totally.
And that gets you into isolation.
Yeah.
Okay? And essentially your Libra's off track at that point. It's gone. Okay? And you've taken your heart out of the game.
Right.
And a lot of people do that because it breaks. Metaphorically speaking. It breaks.
Right.
A broken heart can do it. I've seen it with people. I saw a lot when I was younger with, middle-aged people.
Mm.
Broke them.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow. And for some of them, they never got out of that. Some of them were able to change their rhythm and move forward and move on and go out there and do what they needed to do. Whether it was finding somebody, if it was a broken heart, whether finding somebody else or not.
Right.
Some people go on their own. I mean, you have to be with somebody else. But you want to interact with other people and not hermit yourself.
Right.
That's when you stagnate them all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when your rhythm is essentially the same beat. It never changes. And it's boring.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when we talked about riding the pendulums. It's like staying in the middle. Who in their right mind would want to do that? That is boring.
Right.
You never do anything. You never go anywhere. Yeah, things don't get horrible, but things don't get great either at the same time. Because people are afraid to ride that swing and the swing back. And sometimes the swing back is going to happen, whether you like it or not. And you have to ride through it.
Yeah, it happened. I mean, that's.
But again, you can change your focus
and
your pattern, the focus of your pattern at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Still following the same path, but my pattern has now changed. I had to change my rhythm from this to that.
Okay.
Because it was too much of one thing and not enough of another.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked a little bit about that too. You're on your path, things seem to be going great. You got this good pattern going. You got this big, strong rhythm flowing. You're making money hand over fist, and you turn around and you don't know your own kids and they're 20. And it's like talking to a stranger. And you're like, what happened?
Right.
This was supposed to save everything and make everything great, and it didn't. And it's like, okay, that upswing is going down. Okay? And I didn't even see the downside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it looked like I was just continuing on, but things got bad.
Right.
Okay. And it's like, well, maybe I was, or I was riding the one pendulum way too long. And for me, it didn't peak, but I needed to switch. Because this one went completely the wrong way, and I need to ride it back up.
Mm-hmm.
and focus on it to get it moving in the right direction. And this
Right,
one's
right.
where it needs to be, and we're fine.
Right.
And just because you jump off that one doesn't mean that if it was a financial swing, that your finances are going to get worse. It just means they're not growing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You've switched off. That cycle's gone. The pendulum swing is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're riding this one up. Okay. Your money's not growing, so yeah, your pendulum swing's coming down. Because it was all about growing finance. And it's not growing anymore, so it's going to come back down. And hopefully hit the mid and stay there. But it won't, but it's going to go in the negative if you never think about it again. But you want to ride that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then look at other patterns. Look at your total rhythm, or your song. Let's put it that way.
Right, right.
Okay, or your suite.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Or what album you're on. You can look at it that way if you want to go musically. What album am I on? Have I finished an album? So again, cycles. My life cycle. Where am I in my life cycle?
Mm-hmm.
Am I where I want to be? In all aspects of it. And if not, which ones aren't I doing what I want to be doing? That's where I need to start focusing. That's where my rhythm needs to go.
Okay, okay.
I need harmony here, I need harmony here, I need harmony here. Because it's all out of whack. And let's balance this out. And again, Libra's a big one for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all about balance.
Right.
Or if we want, if we're talking about, either chakra energy or just sign energy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about in planetary. Venus. Venus is out of whack. Okay, and it's not your heart chakra, but it's your heart. It's the actual heart. If your heart's out of whack, your rhythms are out of whack. Your heartbeat is a rhythm.
Absolutely.
Okay? It's kind of your rhythm. It's your heartbeat. When that gets out of whack, your patterns are off.
And then it throws everything else off.
Yes.
Physically,
Yes.
physiologically, psychologically.
Right.
Yeah, it throws everything off.
Yes, it does. And I'm not talking about AFib either, so let's get that out of the way. AFib is a physical thing.
Right.
Okay? Can some of that contribute to it? I'm sure it can. But underlying cause is it's a medical condition.
Right.
It doesn't mean because you have AFib that, I didn't do this right. Okay, but these are things that you can work on to try to get yourself out of that and get your rhythms back.
Mm-hmm.
And start thinking about your own rhythm and where it is and what it's doing and why. Okay, but that's the importance of rhythm. So
Absolutely.
that's what you need to focus on. Are your own patterns and your own cycles and everything cyclical around you. Okay? And start understanding not just your rhythms. You start with your rhythms and then you expand outward.
Right.
To the rhythms around you. We know the seasonal rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
And because we know the seasonal rhythms, we know the environmental rhythms. Your community rhythms. And again, you can look to the planets for a lot of those. Where are they? What are they doing? What's happening? How do I connect better and utilize the frequencies and the energy that they're on?
Mm-hmm.
But those are the most important things, I think, as far as rhythm goes, and hermetics that you need to understand before you're going to be able to do much of anything.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. And we do look forward to seeing you next time. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.